Hello everyone. Good morning, afternoon, evening. I would like to welcome you all in September Hypertrace community call. I'm Jayesh Iyer. I work here at Traceable, specifically on Hypertrace from more than a year now. And these days, I'm more focusing on product management and some kind of community aspect of it. So yes, let's jump to Hypertrace. Uh, so Hypertrace is basically a real-time distributed tracing and observability platform that helps team make sense of their production requests and trends in their network. So Hypertrace converts distributed trace data into relevant insights for every infrastructure. Infrastructure teams can identify which services are causing some overload, or application teams can go and understand which requests put their service objectives at risk, or deployment teams can identify if there's any problem with the new version they have just deployed. Hypertrace accepts all the major tracing data format open standards for tracing, which means if you have already instrumented your application with any of the existing tracing formats, you are ready to go with Hypertrace. So yes, and we created Hypertrace Traceable. We open source it. Now community is helping us to make it a nice observability platform which everybody will want. Cool. So our agenda for today will involve, we'll go through what is Hypertrace and the basics around it, and then we will walk through the engineering updates for this month and some of the exciting demos we have. So why Hypertrace and what different functionality Hypertrace provides out of the box. So first and very important thing is topology. We have a real-time topology view, which is scalable for hundreds of services, and you can actually get visibility into your microservice architecture using this. Then we have pre-canned dashboards for services, APIs, and backend, which any service API or backend owner might ever need. Extensibility, so you can write your own tracing feature in Hypertrace or in general in our ingestion pipeline. Like if you have any data you want to enrich your info and show that data on any dashboard or any call view, you can do that with writing your own feature. Interoperability, as I mentioned, Hypertrace works with any open standard for tracing. So if you have instrumented application with Zipkin, Hotel, or Ega, you are ready to go with Hypertrace. Everything is exposed with GraphQL APIs, so you can build your next exciting use case with GraphQL when you are working with Hypertrace. We provide a powerful explorer which works on top of Pinot, and you can slice and dice on all of your trace data. Then in this year, we also added support for span logs. So it speeds up the process of RCA and reduces the mean time to data problem in general, as logs are already in the span context here. Then error analytics, we help you to find the errors quickly. Like we highlight errors across our waterfall views, and even whenever possible, we even attach logs for those errors. Alerting, we recently rolled out alerting, and we have made lot of updates on that, and lot of things are very mature now, and we have started talking about some of the stuff we updated in last month. Cool. So deployment wise, you can deploy Hypertrace on any Kubernetes or Docker native infrastructure. Out of the box, we support Kubernetes, Docker deployments. It can be on ECS, it can be EKS, GKE, AKS, EC2 instances, or VMs for that matter. Compatibility, as I mentioned, compatible with any open standard, so you can instrument with Zipkin, Jaeger, OpenTelemetry agent, and use it with Hypertrace. Language modules, we have our own Java agent, Go agent, and Python agent. Out of which Java and Python agent provide you auto instrumentation as well, and as it's compatible with any other agents for that matter. So you can even use OpenTelemetry agents if you have application from any other language. And Node.js agent or module is in progress, so it will be available soon as well. Cool. So with this, I will hand it over to Ronak for engineering updates and what exciting things. So
can you go to the next slide, Jayesh? Yeah. Hello everyone. I am Ronak, and I will walk you through some of the engineering update as part of the last month we worked on. So currently we are the majority of work currently are working on on okay, a couple of the major items we are working enhancing from the base offering from our tool. So one of these thing is that adding the support for alerting. So far we already added the support on alerting. So where in Hypertrace, by using user can define the rule using a JSON file, and those rules can continuously get evaluated and the user get alert either on the Slack channel or via webhook. As part of these things, we are enhancing and going forward or providing a support CRUD API, so that these rules can be stored as a part of the DBs. And currently we are using a MongoDB. In that context, we already added some of the new config service in the last month. So I think most probably in the next month, the entire thing will be available as a part of Hypertrace. Another things that we are working is a proposal on the metric support. So as we already know, there are three important telemetry signals: metric, log, and traces. We in Hypertrace, we already have some support for trace and embedded logs, as JS mentioned out. But recently, we already started working and providing the first class support for metrics, so user can ingest the metrics. So in context of this proposal, we have last month we have concluded on the design, that how we are going to store the data and flexibility on supporting this pipeline. So I will walk you through at the high level building block of this ingestion pipeline. Apart apart from these things, there are a couple of interesting and major bug fixes gone in the last month. One of the things was supporting average rate. So we have predefined our metric dashboard. We were used to show the error call count, uh, uh, but in the time series things, this average error rate was not working, and that was fixed as a last month release. That is where we will see the demo in as YY. There was another thing that there are some of the tags related to identifying the HTTP URL or for URI for your for trace or for API. We had added the support for all the open telemetry related semantics, but there was an issue where HTTP URL was not present. Then we were not calculating the URL from the different tag like host, port, and path. It was the code was there, but there was some bug, and we fixed that. As just mentioned that that anybody can easily extend our the Hypertrace service. As a part of this, we added another enricher called trace test enricher in last month. So currently, this attribute calculated by this enricher is not exposed or in a tabularized in a view, but it is available in case if somebody wants to do that. So it identifies from the trace graph that given a trace, how many unique APIs are called. That is a new statistics was get added. Then we add then one more thing that we did is a library support for baseline computation. So when we added the alerting component, it was the completely new component from the scratch, and we added the alerting rule where a user can define if certain matrix is violating above or baseline for a period of time, then alert me. So this baseline calculation was currently done in two different places, one from the UI path where you see the from dashboard, and one from the alerting path. So we fixed this and converted this logic into the library. That was the another work has gone. Apart from that, in upcoming things, that we had a we had a discussion with our partner who was using the Razorpay in the production. Uh, uh, with that, in that, some of the interesting features came in, and they are under discussion and under development. One of the thing is supporting the group by on the tag based group by. So if you go to our Explorer view, currently we support the grouping of the matrices based on the first class attribute. There is a request is under discussion that any of the span tags related attributes you should be able to search and group by using that. So we do already have support for the search. Here is the request for grouping the matrix based on those things. Another UI related feature, but it will be a more powerful feature that is also under development, where you go to the that will be available in the next month release. So whenever you see our service dashboard, API dashboard, there are bunch of metrics: latency, error, and call rate. So from there, if some latency or something is spiked, you should be able to select the range time rate, and that will help you to correlate that during this time range, what are the traces that you will be able to search and correlate with this. That is the upcoming feature. These are the major update for last month, and I think I'll back to you, Jays.
Cool. Thank you. Like lot of exciting things going on, and definitely a lot of work has went into it. So yes, we have few exciting demos from the things one have talked about specifically. And first one is from Sarthak. Yes. Do you want to share your screen?
Yeah, so are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so hello everyone. I'm really excited for this week's community call, as this would be the start of my one of many talks, features, explanations around the Hypertrace community. Also, this is my first open source project, so I would like to give a brief introduction before this. So I started working at Hypertrace directly as a fresh graduate. Until now, the experience working over here has been pretty amazing. I have been working for around 4.5 months till now and have contributed to various services such as alerting, query service, data ingestion pipeline, and now have nicely blended into the working culture over here. So coming to the average rate implementation. So recently we added a new feature of alerting, which sends alerts based on anomalies to platforms such as Mail, Slack, etc. So one of the requirement was to send alerts based on average rate of a metric. Say a user or a customer would specify that I want alerts when the average rate of error goes beyond a certain value. So based on this requirement, we started to support average rate function in our system. So currently, as some of the folks might be aware, we use Pinot to store this data, and by default, Pinot doesn't support the average rate function. So earlier we were calculating average rate by summing over the data points and then manually dividing the response in the gateway service. So this approach had its own drawbacks, as now the caller was responsible for providing the required arguments for the average rate function. So now we plan to shift that logic to query service. Also now we use Pinot's aggregation and transformation functions to simplify the calculations by transforming our average rate query into a much simpler query. So now our query is transformed into a simple sum division query, which is supported in Pinot itself. And now we just need to parse the query to supply the necessary arguments to Pinot. So now we'll look at the live demo for this. So I'm running Hypertrace using Docker Desktop, and I have a sample application hotspot. So using this, I'm generating some load. Yeah, so on the dashboard, you can see that this graph shows the number of errors, and we have selected the aggregation interval as 30 seconds. So for this point, say we have 30 errors at this point. So in the metrics tab, so we can see the error rate graph over here. So this error rate calculates the average rate of error, and for the corresponding value of 30, it would be one error per second. Yeah, so that's it from my side. Back to you, Zayesh.
Okay, that's cool. And yes, like solved it first, I guess. Next one, we have Jyotish from Razorpay who worked on Trace ID based drill down. So Jyotish, you?
Hi everyone. Just can I share my screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay. This is a user enhancement required by requested by the users for a long time. So what is the problem we are trying to solve here? We are in the trace detail screen, and when we are trying, we want to know explore more on the trace ID. Then we need to copy the trace ID, and we can enter trace ID and sorry. And get more details about this particular trace. So as an enhancement, what we have done is like we have introduced a new filter icon. On clicking that, it will take you directly to the trace ID. The same applies for the span also. When you go to a particular span and you can see the filter icon here, we can click on that and it will take you to the Explorer screen with the particular span ID filter applied. So this is just an enhancement. That's it. Hello.
Thanks, Jyotish. And this is pretty helpful in debugging process. This basically makes the workflow very seamless. And thanks for contributing this. Like we really appreciate contributions from folks outside our team, and that it's great that you're working on this part.
Thanks.
So next we have Ronak again, who will be walking us through the metric, how we are creating the metric ingestion pipeline, and how we will be utilizing it in application. So to you, Ronak, again.
I think, can I share your slide, or let me just open the slides? I can share my screen.
I can share the screen. I can share this.
Can you just click on this link also in another tab, 252? Yeah, go back to the slide. So, okay. Hi everyone. As I already mentioned that you are working and incorporating the metrics. As all of you know that there are three important signals for observability, and as we have a goal on Hypertrace to going one single pane for observability for all your telemetry data. So in the context of that, we would like to add the support for trace. We already have a support for embedded logs, and we started working a support on metrics. So there are different approaches as possible. So we try to come up with a flexibility that how we do support these metrics. And as you already know that there are many different use cases are there. So a couple of things we were keeping in the mind that, okay, the metric ingestion pipeline helps both reducing the cost. So it enables the sampling for the traces data, both the platform and the client level. Second thing, our another target for while designing is that uh, does the ingested matrix need any kind of enrichment? If it doesn't need any kind of enrichment, can we directly import the matrix which already exists in your store, and that data can be reused and correlated with the span or other signals. Third goal, we had this any kind of custom matrix. So in the context of this, we came up with come up with this proposal. So left hand side, if you observe, okay. So before I go that, so wherever you see the red part, that is a new component. Wherever this you see the blue part, there is already existing component. So left hand side, if you see that there's a green, where your application resides, which is instrumented. So now there's a multiple option that you can collect or aggregate the data at a client level, either by using an OpenTelemetry SDK, or you can send it to the local collector like Hyper's local collector, and uh, that collector the collector can derive the matrix or forward the matrix forward into the platform side, or the Hypertrace local collector can use the span data or trace data and have additional processor to derive the matrix on top of that. So that open up the opportunity there at the client end. If the client or customer requires any sampling, then he can do, and only important trace or data can be ingested back into the pipeline. If the once the data is in the whatever the red signal that you are seeing, we are thinking of going with the as a wire format as OpenTelemetry metrics protocol itself for ease of operability. So once it comes, we are using a Kafka-based pipeline similar to what we do in our tracing pipeline. Currently, whatever pipeline is there. Once this matrix ingested, it will go into the two Kafka stream-based application. You can see the right box. One is called matrix normalizers and matrix enricher. That will be Kafka stream application, and that will be used for any enrichment. So here, the matrix which requires like API related matrix or service related matrix. So using those metadata, if you want to associate with already existing entities in your system, which are already identified either by traces or by other signals, so that will open up the opportunity to enrich the matrix with the data. So that is the pipeline. And the last component of that is an exporter. So once it takes this data, and we will provide in exporter the two component. One is the pull based mechanism, another is the push based mechanism. As you can see that from the matrix exporter, the OTLP format of the matrix will be sent to direct. Either you can send to the collector, which is uh, which can be in your deployment Hypertrace collector, and there again you can process, and from there the matrix can be pulled by either any Prometheus or Victor matrix kind of the store. Or we will also provide that you can the Prometheus Victor matrix, they can directly pull from the exporters. So here we are considering the store, and we are going ahead with the exporterism more like a Prometheus exposition format, which is anyway now open matrix, which is already part of open matrix standard format. So it can be it will any store which support that format will be considered as a will be used as a drop in for that. But we will recommend it. We will recommend it to either go with the store from the Prometheus family, because at our end in a first cost, we are going to build the query language or query service transformator for the PROM12 family. So if you use other store other than the PROM12 family, the conversion from query service to the destination store, that will the community that will be open, and it will need the support from the community. Similar thing that we did from the post for our document store. So we had as a product we had a support for the MongoDB, and from the community we got the support for Postgres things. Another one component that we are adding as a part of this entire ingestion pipeline is metric generator. So here there will be opportunity that we will be deriving all the metrics. Currently all our dashboards or metrics dashboards are driven using the trace data by deriving the metrics from the traces. So if user want to continue and process and all the traces in the pipeline, they can continue. This component will be helpful to derive the matrix, and that matrix will again be then again we go into the ingestion pipeline and be stored. So that will also open up the opportunity in case the community deployment wants to um, uh, uh, do sampling at the after doing the full enrichment, or they can handle their own. Another thing that if, as I mentioned, the third goal is that if we don't require any enrichment those metrics, and if we already have a Prometheus deployment, existing deployment, and if you want to bring the metrics in the Hypertrace, that will also open up the opportunity. And based on these things, this is the high level design. So I think in the next month community call, we will be able to give you one ingestion side of the demo, and we will be able to show you the query side of the architecture in the upcoming call. But this is what I have for the high level architecture for the matrix side. And just the last thing, that all this red component and all the blue component will be reside in the same deployment called Hypertrace ingester. Yeah, that's it from my side. And more details follow in this link, in issue link.
Cool. This is interesting, and definitely like adding support for metric and having them exposed throughout different dashboards and all will provide more observability, which is a target. So let's see how this works out. Cool. So I will just briefly highlight over the roadmap. And so as Onak mentioned, we are working towards application metric support, ingestion, and then we will also figure out the way we want to expose them in the platform. Custom dashboards can be one of those. So custom dashboards is the next thing we will start working on. Then some of the ingestion pipeline optimizations and supporting for larger number of calls or spans. That's something we'll be working towards as well. The application flow revamp is something minds and that has been due from quite some time now. So we will be working on adding some functionality, adding some more interactivity to application flow. And SLA, SLO support and the incident management is something we will be working afterwards. So yes, and on the community end of things, our general presence across the conferences. We'll be presenting at Open Source India on 7th of October and in CubeSec Enterprise Virtual Summit, which is happening on 12th of October. Both are the virtual conferences and both are free to register. So feel free to register and attend our talk. We will be talking specifically on observability and how you can observe your modern applications better. Cool. So any questions? I'm guessing no. These are some of the resources. You can go through them and if you want to learn more about Hypertrace. And yes, yes, thank you. Thanks for joining in. Guess one more just joined in. Someone just joined in. So we are at the end of the call right now. Thanks for joining in, and the recordings will be available soon on the YouTube as well. So if you just joined, you can go through them afterwards. Cool. Thank you. Have a good evening. Have a good day, and see you all in the next one.